Okay, another day of Doctor Who week, and I got a surprise for you guys. I'm going to review the Peter Davison story, The Caves of Androzani. Now, this story has a bit of a hype to it. It's always come here as a great story, that's for sure. But one thing it's been just pimped up for is one important thing, and I'll explain. In 2009, right after Planet of the Dead came out, that was officially the quote-unquote 200 story. Again, the numbering gets weird. It's disputed whether Trial of Time Lord counts as 1 or 4. And there's some muddy details. I'm not going to get into it. I'm just going to accept the list as is. Now, this list had Doctor Who fans. They brought in a lot of people to judge and give feedback on this, so it's not just a couple guys. They got a lot of people to rein in on this. So in most cases, I understand. Sometimes I get a little edgy when you see these lists. Sometimes you wonder if that's really that. Because, you can get those people who are like, it's awesome because everyone else says it is. I don't like it when things ruin that. And I'll get to my next video on why that point's getting brought up. But we're going to focus on caves today. I don't think I'm going to dive too much into the story strictly because, and this is going to sound really silly, but it's too good to spoil and really talk about. I'm going to talk about what makes it work, but I'm not going to get into specific plot details. I am, however, going to just kind of give you a rough synopsis. After landing on Androzani Minor, the Doctor and his companion Perry develop a lethal kind of poisoning. As they search for a cure before it's too late, they basically get caught in this giant feud between Jack, who I'm going to call in this review Mr. Rapey, and you'll see why, and businessman Morgus. Jack becomes obsessed with Perry. Believe me, that's the main reason why he's being called Mr. Rapey, but the situation degenerates when the girl ignores his affections, really pushing the Mr. Rapey comment. Trust me, it gets creepy. Between threats from Magma Beast and Gunrunners, it quickly becomes just all-out hell. And that's why it works, because one thing about Peter Davison's Doctor that's well known is he's honest, and I totally agree with this, he's honestly considered more or less the nicest of them. He's rarely angry. When he is, it's actually a fucking hoot to watch. And obviously when he's not angry, he's being kind, and all he wants is peace. It's demonstrated in the somewhat lackluster story of Warriors of the Deep. Yes, it sucks, but still, it was somewhat of a Doctor moment there. I'm not going to tear that apart. But still, he's the kindest Doctor, which makes the undeniable irony that he probably has one of the more violent eras in the show even more funny. And they even play with the idea here. This story is, if you look at it, if you watch the whole season, which to be fair I haven't, but from understanding it, is just this build-up of violence. Just basically, the Doctor tried his best to try and get out of it, but he's lost companions. He's both with death and just from them leaving from the threat of death. It's a constant, unstoppable, unending war with him. A feeling that they really do push in the new series, specifically more with Tennant than anything, and that's only because, again, he's had a longer run out of all of them so far. But this story works simply because they took the kindest Doctor and put him in the most unkindest of places, in impossible to talk down war zone. And hell, even after the story's over, this war's never done. That's the thing. You always kind of worry that this was going to get easily resolved, and it was going to end with everyone shaking hands, or the bad guy dying, and no questions, boom, happy ending. No, honestly, it's not exactly a happy ending. this great wave of dreads just put over the whole story, and it never gets out of it. There's a couple moments of humor generated from the Doctor himself, but those don't derail it. It just plays with the way the character acts. So that's why I like this. It's so different, and it feels modern. You're kind of used to those stories that rake the Doctor for the coals. This, I like to think, is the archetype of those. Constantly pushing the Doctor to an even greater limit, but still trying to do his best to keep his conscience in check and do the right thing. Another reason this one works is epic. And it's a little hilarious how they keep it epic. One thing that I kind of got annoyed with more or less the Russell T Davies era was their way of making a story epic. All they did was simply say, look, an army of Daleks. Granted, that did work. It, made you say, oh fuck, I wonder how long is it going to take the Doctor to take him out. Here, it's a little different. It's not even... Here's the thing with those. The problem with them trying to make it big, epic, they try and sell it as big as they can. Explosions, aliens, rah! Yes. That is how you can do it. Problem is, it's like buying a Hummer and then putting giant accessories on your Hummer. Yes, that's impressive for about a bit, and then you're just curious to see what happens next and how it all ends. Because when you try and make something too big, you're just going to wonder when this huge excitement's just going to fade off. And with Caves, it never does fade off. But it's so small. It just seems like a small skirmish between Mr. Rapey and Morbius, and it doesn't seem like it's affecting anything. If anything, the only thing it's really the only two things that get hurt from this are just two separate planets, Androzani Major and Minor. And the Doctor's goal isn't to save everyone on the planets. It isn't to save anyone else out there. It's to save Perry. That's beautiful. Especially when you consider that he barely knows this girl, and he probably doesn't know too much about her. But all he needs to understand is that she's innocent, and there's no reason that she should die here. He's not thinking of himself, and he's not thinking of anyone else. All he's thinking about is getting her safe. That is how you sell it. It's a giant life struggle for just one life, and it's amazing. Davison is at his top here, showing just so much and doing so much to prove it. A character analysis it was just summed up for him basically. He's just pushing and pushing, no matter how much they push back, until they push him off the edge and it's his final moments, and cue regeneration scene. Perry, and trust me, you're going to get used to this when you hear about the character, isn't exactly, brave or strong, but it works here. This is a war zone, like I keep repeating repetitively like a broken record. And also, she's under the and also, she has to basically deal with the uncomfortable advances of Mr. Rapey, which is kind of understood, because I just want to remind you people, Perry looks like this. And when you look like that around a guy who dresses up like this, yeah, you ain't safe. You are not safe. And that, again, technically did add to some dread, if not some phone calls to a therapist. But that's another thing that works. He's not at all a subtle villain. He's not even trying to be classy. He's just a madman who wants to destroy things. And what's better than that? And there's a lot of things better than that. Like Perry, see? So many people want that now. and Christmas is coming. Good luck finding that. And all the other supporting characters do their best. You understand their motivation, and that's all you need to understand. I didn't grow too big into any of the other characters. The only ones I was, of course, interested in are Jack and the Doctor, and Perry to an extent, only because seeing a woman ogled by a guy in a gimp costume for so long, you start worrying about anything. But aside from semantics, Caves definitely deserves, if not the top spot, definitely to be in the top 10 of stories of all time. I really hope that when it stays in the top 10 whenever they decide to do this list again, adding in the other stories, other existing stories to whatever period. But I'll see you guys next time, and it's gonna be a doozy.